Hi, I'm Kelly Meisner, and I'm here from Parents Place of Maryland. We are the statewide Parent Training and Information Center. We've been around for about 20 years, and we help families of kids with disabilities and special health care needs in understanding and navigating the special education process as well as the healthcare industry. And that's both public and private insurances and anything that goes along with healthcare. Everyone in our organization is a parent of a child with a disability, so when a family calls and they're looking for help, we understand where they are, whether they have a new diagnosis or whether they are calling for resources or funding sources, that sort of thing, or help trying to get more services for their child for school. Tonight I'm here to present Show Me the Money, which is about finding resources in our communities to help provide the things that we need for our kids, whether that's equipment or medical help or just really anything that we might need to buy for our kids. And that's what we're here to do tonight. Parents Place has a website. It's www.ppmd, like Parents Place of Maryland, .org. We also, our phone number is 410-768-9100. And you can really talk to anybody who answers the phone. We have parent educators waiting to help families. So tonight I want to talk about, essentially I want to go kind of in 4 different directions. We'll talk a little bit about health insurance, private health insurance. We'll talk about, and public. We'll talk about some public programs, some disability organizations and community organizations, and then some private and charitable organizations that may be able to provide us with some funding. So I just thought this was a really funny commercial or cartoon. It's translation services. You have French, you have Chinese, and you have healthcare reform. And isn't that the truth? It's just a big money mess, and I hope that somehow it's going to get resolved and make sense. And actually, the other thing that concerns me is that some of what I'm hearing, some things are great. The things that have already gone into place, the fact that our kids can stay on our insurance until they're 26, the fact that pre-existing conditions for children are no longer going to keep you from getting insurance, and eventually for adults as well. But there's a lot of other things that I don't know if they're going to actually benefit us and our kids, because there's so few. In the big scheme of things, our kids are, our numbers are really small as far as kids with special health care needs. So we'll see. So we'll start with health insurance. There's a lot of different packages. There's a lot of different things to know and understand, whether you have an HMO, whether you have a PPO, whether you have fee-for-service. All of these have different rules, different regulations, that sort of thing. So it's really important for you to know what you have. Sometimes we get choices, and you have to look at what is it going to be that's going to benefit you the most? What things are you concerned about? It's really not a bad idea to sit down and make a list, just like we talked about. What are the things I need covered? Not every policy would have. Not very many families need medical equipment, DME, durable medical equipment. Those of us who need it can't live without it. But there's a lot of insurance, especially small companies, that don't even think about having a rider, that sort of thing, for that. So you need to make a list of what are the things that you need, and then see if you have choices, which one's going to fit best for you, and know that probably none is going to meet 100% of our needs. And then we have to figure out from there. So there are, one of the other things that we have to worry about too, there's insurance is based in, we have federal insurance, and federal insurance oftentimes follows its own rules, and we have to be very careful. It's not necessarily held to state standards. So states can have their own rules, but if that insurance didn't originate in the state of Maryland, it may not be held to the same regulations that Maryland insurance companies have, and that's really difficult sometimes. Large organizations that essentially self-insure, they might do it through Blue Cross, but it's really a self-insured plan, don't have to follow the same rules that state plans do. So we have to be really careful that we know what's in our plan. It's not the same across the board. And then we have different types of public funds. We have straight out Medicaid that is income based. There's income eligibility requirements. I have a lot of handouts on that kind of thing, including what the rates are, because some things are 2 to 3% of 300% of poverty level. What does that mean these days? Because we all think we're living at poverty level, and there's poverty level and there's poverty level. But actually, depending on how many family members you have, those rates are creeping up kind of higher and higher as far as your income level, and still being able to qualify for some of these programs. Also, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene has an office for genetics and children with special health care needs. Probably most of you are not aware of that. I wasn't aware of it. They have some funding for that we get grant funding through them, and a lot of organizations do. They in particular have the Children's Medical Services Program, which is for very specific. It's very low income. It's the only program in the state that would allow people who are not legal residents in the United States to receive any kind of services for their children who might have special needs. It's the only place that they can go. It's not only for that population, but it's a very low income. But at least there's something available.
Is there a name of this program, or you just go on?
It is the Office of Genetics and Children. It's a horrible name. Genetics? The Office of Genetics and Children with Special Health Care Needs. It's under DHMH. Actually, it's under. There's so many different pieces and parts of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. They have. One of the things that they have is a resource line. So I do have flyers for that. You can call. They have resources. They work with Parents Place on developing some of their lists. They have a website that has a map, and you can click on Baltimore County or Baltimore City or anywhere in the state, and you can see it has just all kinds of different resources for families, and they are keeping it. It was developed a few years ago, but they have updated it now that they've filled all their office positions.
When you're talking about, earlier you were talking about guardianship and how the healthcare, now we can get the private health insurance up to age 26. Everything that you're mentioning now, which is the Parents Place, what is the definition of a child? What age? Like all these programs that you're about.
Well, everybody has I don't know what is magic about the age of 26 as far as the healthcare piece of it. Generally, what Parents Place generally serves families with children up to age 21. So we kind of help get to transition a little bit into transitioning out of schools and into adulthood. But for every different program, there is a different definition, and I'll tell you one of the things I also recently found out. This is kind of a little bit on the side. Doctors also have a different definition. You need to know whether your doctor is going to stop seeing your child at 18, whether they're going to stop seeing them at 21, whether they're going to keep them forever, because it matters, especially if you're talking about specialists. I recently tried to get an appointment with a specialist who actually called me and said, "You need to make an appointment." And I did, and then they said, "We won't see you now because she's too close to her 18th birthday," which was kind of weird. But and then yet I talked to another doctor at Kennedy Creek. That was a doctor at Hopkins. I talked to a doctor at Kennedy Creek and said, "Oh no, they allow kids till 21." So they're not even on the same page. So yeah, it's important to ask those questions. What is a child? It really depends.
And are there exceptions to the rule? Like, I'm a retired federal employee.
Right.
So my child, we designated my child as a permanent child.
Right. Given that they have a disability, then that might also be a whole different matter, because they will not be self-sufficient. They will not be able to have a job. But also, depending if your child qualifies, they can potentially receive Medicaid as an individual at 18.
Right, and then you use that as a supplement.
Private. Right.
That way it usually helps you over a lot of those little barriers.
Right. A lot of the things that we listed, co-pays, things like that, could be covered if you can finagle and get both. Or if you have Medicaid
One
and don't have
primary,
insurance, right?
One primary and secondary with subrogation. So.
Right. So it's complicated. There's no easy answers, and I swear no two people have the same definition of anything.
Because whenever I go anywhere now, they always have my son sign. You kind of knew.
Yes.
And
Is
then
he
what do you
right?
mean? You don't need me to sign.
Yeah, and you have to be careful when you're talking. I know we're again getting off the topic, but we just had a big health conference last weekend, so health is fresh in my mind. It's really important to make sure if you have a child who's turned 18 who is not competent to be making some of these decisions, that you do have to go think about guardianship and explore that. There is a new guide app that was just put out literally last week by the Developmental Disabilities Council. It's a nice booklet that's just been revised called Planning Now. If you've heard of that.
You got the email, and in the email was an attachment. I love our parents because very often they love our emails, but some of them, it's hard
it's
to
a
read.
lot.
I think just today
I don't
sent
look at
3
mine.
emails, so not all of them are actually being read, and I don't take any offense to that.
And some of the
but-
things, some of the attachments can't open with other systems either.
Yeah, that's true. So, but it's available. It's available. It's a nice guide. There's also another one that you guys went to the presentation by Calgary and Steedman, law firm. They've just put out a guide as well, or updated another guide. All right. So again, some of this I probably already talked about. When we have insurance, we have to talk about, choosing the right plan from the start. I talked about that. It's always better if you can get into a group than trying to buy an individual plan, because many of our kids are expensive. And the larger the group, the less expensive it is for everyone. You have to understand everyone's paying for your kid. But it becomes less expensive when it's spread out among a large group. It gets very, very hot. In fact, we couldn't insure our daughter because it just was going to be twice as expensive just to have her on our insurance. And we just couldn't afford that. Make sure you have a copy. Make sure you read that booklet. They give you a booklet, and they usually make it available to you yearly, because there's always changes. So make sure that you have it and you look over it to make sure that you understand what you're entitled to and what you're not. Remember that you are the customer. You paid the insurance fee, so you have a little bit of pull. Talk to the people. Call the insurance company. Ask for a case manager if you need to. Ask for somebody to help you with your insurance. Also, I think if we have our insurance through our employer, though, they're actually the customer. And so sometimes if you can't get it resolved for yourself, by yourself, it's not a bad idea to go to your human resources officer if you have one, or whoever negotiates your insurance, because they're the one that actually can say, you know what, maybe we won't pick you next year. We'll go with a different company. So they actually are the ones that have a little bit more of the power and the pull.
There are
so
some
work
things
together
as
with them.
employee advocates.
I'm sorry?
There are things as
Yes.
employee advocates that will advocate on your behalf with the insurance companies.
Right, and you just need to go to them and help them really understand what your issue is, because I forget. I live in a world where most people I know have a kid with a disability, because that's what I do for a job. That's the people I live around. That's the groups that I'm part of. Not everybody does, believe it or not. In fact, very few people actually do, and especially as we have kids. My daughter is very severely disabled. There's people who have no understanding of what to sit to stand. What does that mean? Why would you need that? Why, that kind of thing. So if you can explain it as best as you can, it's helpful. And you know what? Don't take no.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious. You couldn't get insurance on her on your daughter?
She's on Medicaid.
Even though that's income related?
She is 18.
Oh.
So now she is a family of one. And so
What
she
did you
has
do before
Medicaid.
that?
We were able to. We had about a month where we couldn't get insurance for her, and because of that, we actually were income eligible as a family. So because of that, for that month gap, she was covered. She didn't have to go without any insurance, because we just couldn't. I would not be here. Yeah, it would be a huge problem for a lot of families. So you know, we were able to work that out. It's difficult and it's humbling. It's very you know, it certainly was for me to go through that process and say, you know, no, I can't afford this and I can't afford that and I can't afford, because that's not how you know, I don't want to advertise that, I don't want to live that life, but it's the reality of where my family is today. So we were able to do that.
Right, and that's, I think, the reality of probably
a lot of
everybody in this room. Unless you're a multi-millionaire, no one can afford to have these children without programs.
Without some help. Absolutely.
It's not like having a typical child with typical expenses. These are
right.
exponential.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's hard, you know, and that's one of the things about doing this workshop that that I like to, you know, it's hard to ask for help. It's really, really hard. We want to be in control. We want to think that we can do it. We want to think that we can take care of our own kids. And we do. But there is help out there, and it is for our kids, and we are as entitled to it as anybody else, and it's okay to go after that money. And that's sometimes, I know for myself, it's hard. I have to give myself permission to say, you know what, you know, I do things for my other kids. I want to be able to. I want to be able to do for her too. I just need different things for her, you know. And I can't help that camp for her costs a lot of money compared to what camp for my 10-year-old who has no disabilities costs. You know, and she's 18 and I still have to find someone to care for her. He's 10, he's 12, and he can stay home by himself, you know. It's just kind of, it's just reality. Insurance companies like to say no. Doesn't mean no is the final answer. So don't hesitate to appeal. We spent, I hate to keep talking about myself, but my husband spent 2 years fighting the insurance company. We said they owed us money, they said we owed them money, and what they said they owed us was less than what we thought they owed, whatever, I don't know. It got very convoluted and it got very difficult. And they were calling collection agencies, and they were having people call us in the middle of the night, and you know, it was awful. It was awful, but in the end, he was very tenacious, and sure enough, they never did what they said they would do to investigate whether or not they owed the money. So finally they gave in and just said, all right, what do you think we owe you? Let's be done. Took 2 years. It's almost a full-time job to manage the amount of...
You just have to get up to somebody's level where they understand that it's going to cost them more to start the investigation than it is to just pay it off.
Right.
And I might, right. I do believe that there's also a kind of statute of limitations with them also. Mm-hmm. That if more than a certain amount of time has gone by, they can't then turn around and say. So it's really in their best interest to settle it also, because after 2 years, if they take you to court, it's really...
It's not, right. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, don't be afraid to write those letters. We have sample letters. I didn't bring them, but I did bring a couple fact sheets on making appeals. You know, don't hesitate to do that. Don't take no for an answer, because it doesn't always mean no. However, look in your books, because if they said clearly we're not going to pay for this and you do it anyway, then you may not have a leg to stand on, or probably won't have a leg to stand on. So sometimes no means no. These are just a list of different things that you need to pay attention to. What are the limitations and exclusions? What are the co-insurance rules? What are the deductibles? I think we all are pretty clear on all that kind of stuff. Do you need prior authorization or do you not? Do you need a referral before you go see this doctor, or can you just show up? And that depends, you know, having Medicaid also. Just because you have public insurance doesn't keep you from having to need referrals and all of that kind of stuff. It depends on what plan you have. It depends on what the options are. So really you need to know your insurance. And I've also found out, having just newly being on Medicaid, you know, they don't want you showing up and saying, oh, by the way, I got a new insurance. They want to know that ahead of time. They want to get that prior authorization and all of that taken care of before you walk in there. So do the courtesy of letting them know when you've had insurance changes.
Sometimes it's just as simple as asking, what is it exactly you want me to do, instead of having a hissy fit at the front desk.
Absolutely.
What is it exactly? Show me your process, what you want me to do.
Right.
And
they're happy to do it. Right. Yeah, because everybody might have different rules of how they want to get it done and what information they might need from you.
Of course, that doesn't work if they've been ordered by their headquarters. We've already reached our limit for claims. No to everybody. We're only paying appeals that win.
But you never know when that might be, so you just got to keep on trying anyway, right? So know what your services are. Know, this is a lot of redundancies. Know where and how to order medications. You know, sometimes you can get them from the local pharmacy. Sometimes you need to order them, especially if there's something you're going to be taking for a long time. Sometimes it costs a lot less for you. You might skip a copay in there if you order a 3-month supply versus a 1-month supply, that sort of thing. Look into those kinds of things and see if there's any ways that you can save money for yourself. And then, find out who to call. And do they have priority preferences on equipment, all of that kind of fun stuff. So with medical assistance or Medicaid in Maryland, there's also waivers. Are you all familiar with some of the waivers that are available? Not really, a little bit. There's an autism waiver that is specifically for kids with autism.
But they don't give it to you if you're in a private school.
They do not. You have to be part of it. It's administered through the public school system. So I know it doesn't apply to you. I'm just telling you what's here. Yeah. And naturally, there's also a waiting list.
Right.
I believe I last heard it's about a 7-year waiting list.
I happen to serve on the Autism Waiver Committee, and because of the children who are aging out, it shrunk down. It's under 5 years now.
Woohoo! There we go. Okay, and so if you can get it, there are some really great services for families. All of the Medicaid waivers, my understanding is that essentially it's for people who are at risk for or who would qualify for institutional level care. That waiver in particular, I think when it started, I think they were letting just about anybody on. I don't know if it started actually with that premise or, I think there's a wide range of people who are receiving, so don't get judgmental. People are on there,
right.
Everybody has a right to get on the list.
That's what I'm seeing from among the Menucha families. I have some children who are on these waivers who, to me, not that I know anything, makes sense to be on these waivers.
Right.
And then I'll have a child who I'm thinking, wait a minute. They denied this one, but they said yes to that one. How does that work? And it's good you brought this up because my question to you is,
and I don't administer it.
Should I just refer parents? Normally I just say, hey, try it. But it's such a process, and once you're in there, it kind of sucks you in, and it just takes over your life. And at the end of the day, you may wind up with something, you may not wind up with something. So, should I be referring the parents whose children I think should really be on a waiver and get them to be sucked up into that? Because I don't see any rhyme or reason with who they're saying yes to and who they're saying no to.
A good part of who they say yes and no to, well, I don't know about the no, but I know that this waiver in particular is not about severity, it's about when you got on the list.
That's the autism waiver.
The autism waiver.
Right.
I think personally, I think all the waivers, it doesn't hurt to apply. You don't know, and part of it is, okay, the developmental disabilities waiver.
What's that?
With the waiting list, the DDA.
Just anybody on DDA? I never heard that.
Yeah.
If you have a developmental disability, there's a waiver.
How old is that waiver?
It could be throughout. It's a whole lifespan waiver. It all depends on when you get it, how you get it, what. That one in particular is such an enigma to me, and I've been trying desperately to get on. My daughter qualified, but her number hasn't come up yet. we, as much as of a crisis as I can think of being that we could be in, they still say no.
Is that the one where they're waiting for you to be at risk of homelessness?
Of being homeless, yeah.
Okay, yeah, nobody's gonna get that. Just forget it.
But you never know. Here's the thing: you have to keep trying.
I've never heard of it.
No, just the
And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, people call you up and say, you know what, you're at the top of the list.
What's interesting is, I'll tell you that Jeanette, who was going to be here tonight, whose son had a medical emergency, her son is 10. My daughter is 18. They actually have one of their diagnoses. Their seizure disorder is the same. It's a very rare, pretty devastating seizure disorder. So they're pretty similar kids. Her son actually does get suctions and things like that, and my daughter doesn't. But they're pretty similar children. Her husband he's a guitarist, and he has some kind of repetitive use injury and cannot, every time he moves his arm, it blows up, and it's awful. And that's his livelihood. So he now can't work. He also can't care for the son. My husband fell off of our ramp to our car, pushing my daughter in, broke his elbow. He no longer can care for my daughter. I work full-time. Jeanette works full-time. Identical story. Both of us in financial issues outside of that, even though one of us works. She had a case manager who rushed her through, who said, yes, absolutely, she was in crisis. Mine said no.
And this was for the developmental disability?
Yes, for another
This is for the developmental disability waiver. So I'm just saying, you don't know. Some of it depends on who you get, who you talk to. I talked to somebody who was, well, if I give it to you, what about all the other single mothers? And it was awful. It was absolutely demeaning.
We had one
to
like
me.
that too. We called up the
she got everything that she needed.
We want a different person.
Right, and you can ask for a new case manager, but I have not had luck getting that. So you don't know. And I hate to be up here saying it. I am not, I have so many issues with that. We have gotten on their advisory committees to help bring the voice of the actual families who are being told yes,
parents,
no, and
Parents' Place of Maryland?
yes.
Okay. What other waivers, or if you don't have to cover this.
Right.
I don't want to get you too.
This is actually part of what.
But if you want to send me a link or even a list of what waivers are out there.
And I do have a very nice handout side by side of looking at different waivers and how you might apply for them, whatever. I brought a few applications for the developmental disability waiver. Here's the thing. There is a waiting list. Every waiver has, because they all have to have a cap. They're all federally, most of them, it's a federal state money match. I don't begin to understand all the politics involved. But if they don't know we're here and needing the money, then they don't think we're here and needing money. Even if they do know, it's amazing to me how many people have walked up to me, and I'm sure you, and I just know Glenn better, I'm sure all of you, and say, oh, you have a kid like that? Oh, I'm sure you get everything you need. I'm sure you have, well, of course you have nursing in your house. No, why would I have nursing? I can do a G-tube. My 10-year-old can do a G-tube. Why would I have a nurse in there? And yet there's other people that won't touch her. She has a nurse that goes to school now with her because she's fed on the bus. Well, guess what? She's fed in my car every single day because I would never be able to leave the house because I don't have a nurse and I don't need a nurse.
So what city are you in?
School.
What town are you in?
I live in Columbia. Howard County. But that's it's a state nursing regulation. So we did, so it's crazy what happens, but people look at us when we were in the ICU, they're amazed. What do you mean you don't have a nurse in your house? So people assume that somehow we all get what we need. And we all know we don't. We have to make sure that people understand, that the legislatures understand, no, we don't. Most of us don't get Medicaid until our kids are able to be a family of one. There's just so many things. Yes, there's the DDA waiver, and waiver, it just means that the eligibility requirements are waived for the family. So, now Ashley can get Medicaid because she's a family of one. They're not looking at my income, and so they're looking at her as her own entity. That's what the waivers waive. So there's a lot of different requirements. There's several. There's the home and community-based waiver. There's the model waiver. There are a lot of different things. I have more information on the table back there about those different waivers. All of them have waiting lists. Some, and all of them have different requirements. So you just got to keep trying.
There was one parent who actually took them to due process, and she got what she wanted on the spot. So much for the waiting list.
And again,
but what she
that
went
happens.
through was a lot to get there.
And you know what's the other thing that I find very interesting, and this is just through my own experience, people who need or who say they need a lot, get a lot. I'm trying to say, I don't want a nurse in my house, I just need a little help. I'm never going to get that. I might be able to make the case for nursing. I'll never be able to make the case for just a little bit of help. Which is crazy because then, really you're going to pay $50 an hour for a nurse when all I need is personal care attendant or a nurse's assistant. It's just the way the system is set up is just crazy, and I wish they'd turn it over to the families because we'd all share.
This is not our first child like this. Our youngest child is developmentally disabled. This is not the first time. This is not our first rodeo. Okay? What happened with us originally is we had Governor Glendenning became governor. Mm-hmm. And he said the state of Maryland is spending too much money in institutions outside the state of Maryland. And he said, we're going to get people to voluntarily bring their children back to Maryland. And they created the DDA situation because they said they will give you wraparound services. And they gave us wraparound services. They said to me, Mr. Gross, what do you need from us to be able to keep your child at home and not have to send them out of state? I told them what I needed. They said, doesn't seem to be a problem. We can do it. Kennedy Krieger was our advocate. Mm-hmm. And we were one of the last ones in the system because when our child turned 18, the older child, when he turned 18, they said, well, the system doesn't exist. I said, well, we're not finished.
Yeah.
And they had to keep this thing operating until my son got through the system. It's all about their comfort zone. If they can't close their books, if they can't meet their time element that the courts have imposed on them, all of a sudden they get reasonable.
So we need to be a voice is the answer. We need to, I kind of shy away sometimes from the Developmental Disability Day where everyone goes down to Annapolis and they, they're all there parading their children. I don't like to parade my child in that way, but that's what pulls at the heartstrings of people. That's when they open their wallets or at least have the potential to do that. We need to make sure that people know and understand, people who have some ability to have some control over some of this. There is a new administration at DDA. They are trying to change things for the better, I think. It's a bureaucracy. It's scary how things have been done. Literally, they were paper and pencil accounting, not even using computers. It was really scary, and they lost
tens of millions of dollars.
That they're now trying to figure out how to make amends for that, how to make things better. And hopefully it'll trickle down to some of the rest of us. Those people who are benefiting, I think it's a good thing, but not everybody's benefiting. But anyway, that's my soapbox on that. So I think you need to apply. They need to know that we're there. And you never know when things are going to change around, where there might suddenly be some funding. When your number might come up, somebody, it might be your lucky day. So you just don't know. And like I said, look at, my coworker and myself. Identical situation. She got everything she needed, including a new van. Okay. And you know what? I don't begrudge her that. I really don't. Personally, wish I had it.
Yeah, but you're thinking, why not?
She needs it. She needs it. She could not get her son out of her house because they had ordered a new wheelchair for him. And it didn't fit in her car, and no one said, "Hey, does this fit? Do you think this is a good idea?" So it's crazy. So she literally could not take him out for his therapies for anything else. So she needed that, but she got everything I got out there.
I'm just curious, where did she go to get that van?
Where did she go to get it? Like the dealer?
What? No. Who?
That was
funded it?
DDA.
That was DDA.
Because they declared that she was having an emergency, and there are funds because of that $85 million they lost. There are funds available for people who are in crisis.
Right. So
they deemed that she was in crisis.
But she had to be on the waiver.
What they do is that you have to have a list ready of the things that you need and be able to state them, because they may say, oh, we found out we have some unspent funds at the end of the year. Your child qualifies. What do you need? You can't say, I'll call you back. You need to have that list ready.
That is key. That you need to know. As I said, in thinking about looking at your health insurance and all of that, you really need to think. You need to have pretty much a running list of, are there things, and I'll be honest, my experience has been they're much more willing to fund things than services.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you need that sit to stand, you put that at the top of your list, because you might just get it, where you're not going to get someone else to come in and help you put them in it. You know, it's crazy.
That's fine. I have the opposite.
Right. So you just, that's been my experience recently. When the money starts getting tight, they'd rather spend it on a one-time thing than they would for you to keep coming back. And yes, I need someone in my house 20 hours a week or whatever it is. So have a list ready. Think about what are things that would make my life easier. Talk to each other. If you have a kid who has, similar issues, what do you guys do? What do you have? Because I also know I've traveled around the country. We lived 5 places in 10 years, and we're not military. And I got to Maryland, and I said, okay, what can I get? Well, I don't know where to start. How do I begin all these processes? And they said, well, what do you need? Well, I do it all. I don't know what I need. What can I get? And I don't mean, I'm not being greedy about what do I. Well, they wouldn't tell me. They just they don't want to give me a menu to pick and choose from, and I kind of understand that. But I don't know. Can you fund services or can you not? If I had understood that they were more likely to fund things, I might have spent my money differently. I might have saved money for services that I could buy and let them buy me things. Because I don't care how I get it. I just need what I need, right? And
I don't know. When I first talked to DDA, which was so long ago, because I knew to call them, I knew there was a waiting list. My son was so little then. Oh my gosh, it was like 14 years ago. He was like 7. And so a man came out and he said, tell me everything you need. And I just right there sat down and thought of absolutely everything I would ever need for him. I put down a pool. Okay, I went from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. So that list is always there. It's in his DDA file forever. So whenever I ask for something, it's on that master list.
Oh, smart.
So I think that might have something to do with
How did you have the presence of mind to know to do
Yeah,
that?
I had absolutely no idea. I had a lot of see, I have to dish mine with that. I had a lot of help.
Well,
Came to me.
and it's really funny because then you'll hear someone say, "Oh, we don't fund pools." Well, then something might change the next time if you call it a therapy,
I'm not expecting
whatever.
a pool,
It's a pool. I know,
actually
but
everything is on that list. And
Right.
Maybe that
You
has
just-
something to do with it.
you don't know what they might actually turn around and fund. Rules change all the time. Ask. I hate to say it because it feels greedy to me. I just need this much, but those who are asking for this much tend to get it.
you're not dealing with elusive.
It's not. It's very nonsensical.
$8 million there.
So anyway, going back to insurances, there's a lot, so I have information back here. I have a kind of one listing of all the waivers and how you might apply and what they might cover, that kind of thing. Sure, if you can, well, there's a lot of paper right there. You figure out what you want to do. There are also other programs. There's, if you can't qualify directly for, your income might be a little bit too high for medical assistance, there's M-CHIP. There's M-CHIP Premium, one of those, and again, I have paperwork on those, fact sheets about those. You might have to pay a fee, but it's generally a small fee compared to what an insurance, if you can even get an insurance premium, what they would cost. And some of those also, parents may be able to, if your child or children get onto the program, they do have some that parents can also receive insurance. Yes?
Do you know about M-CHIP premium, if you can get that if you have employer-based health insurance?
I believe that sometimes you can.
Because I did, and then I didn't anymore.
Right, and it's kind of, sometimes it depends on who you talk to. I think you should, depending on what the needs of your child are. That sometimes some people are able to have Medicaid and private insurance, or MCHIP and private insurance. I believe I have another another coworker that has done that herself as an adult, has been able to have private insurance and public insurance because somehow they financially qualified for those. But I'm not sure. I don't want to say yes or no to, because it might be MCHIP and not premium. I don't know. Sometimes don't discount the fact that as our kids get older, they might start working because they work. There's always that: are they going to lose benefits if they work? If they earn more than a certain amount of money? There are programs that are allowing employed individuals to earn a little bit more and still keep their benefits, and that's really important because we'd rather our kids work, I think, than be sitting at home. So that's an important factor. And like I said, some families do qualify also for medical assistance. The Office of Genetics. Oh, did you?
Is that the right one? Is that the one you meant?
Yes, that's got, yeah, and that has it has pretty much everything on this one form.
Just one question, the model waiver versus the DD waiver, aside
Yes.
from age, is there any other difference?
Model waiver is typically for kids who are much more medically fragile. Usually it's kids who need nursing type care. It's very similar to REM. I'll be honest, I don't know. I tried to apply for both. I got REM because she qualified for medical assistance, Medicaid. REM is a carve out of that. You can only get REM if you get Medicaid. Okay. Model waiver is if you don't get Medicaid. So it's very similar to children, is my understanding. I don't know. Do you know?
That's what
But it's again, model waiver has a very low number of slots, so they try hard. I spent a lot of time talking to the coordinating center who manages both, and not exclusively, but they do have both, and hoping that I could do one or the other, and they were really hoping we would be able to get into Medicaid, which we did, so that we could get REM. It was going to be a whole lot easier, and there was, I can't say there was no waiting list, but there was less getting into REM. We pretty much automatically got in. I already talked about Children's Medical Services through the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene Office for Genetics and Children's Special Health Care Needs. For healthcare, we also have school health centers, community health centers. There's also some services available through health departments, immunizations, that type of thing. And then there's also some free and low-cost clinics that are available throughout the state. If you want information on those, I would have to do some research. I don't have that at the tip of my fingers for those things, but they are available. Again, more than likely, most of them are income-based. Mental health administrator, or mental hygiene, which is, they do mental health administration. There are some services that can be available for them through them as well. A lot less, but they're starting to do a little bit more mental health in school-based settings, and also there's the core service agencies. That's where we're getting, if there's any wraparound that's occurring, that seems to be occurring in the mental health field. Trying to keep kids in communities rather than being sent away. We talked about Developmental Disabilities Administration, what they do. The Department of Human Resources. That's the department where you go for temporary cash assistance, food stamps, that kind of thing. They also have some respite funding. Again, it's income-based, eligibility requirements. And there is a website that you can go to, Maryland SAIL, I'm going to just double check if you have to spell it all out. I did look it up too. And you can apply essentially for all of those things, anything that's available through the state, like food stamps, WIC, all of that kind of thing. You can apply for in one application, which is really nice. And Medicaid is part of that. So it's Maryland SAIL, like a boat, .org. And you can kind of check the boxes of the things you're applying for, so you don't have to be applying for everything. And that's a nice way of doing it. If you're taking care of a child, kinship care, they also have that available.
Kinship care.
Kinship care, well, I'll come back. Is, if you're caring for, say, your grandchild who has, or someone in your family that's not your own child, there is some money available to help families.
I don't think each jurisdiction has that. I know the city does. I don't believe Baltimore County has kinship care.
It does actually.
It does now?
It does. Well, again, my coworker, a different coworker, I know for a fact that she's receiving kinship care funding through Baltimore County.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And, Department of Social Services is where that comes from. So I don't think it's a ton of money, but she's getting something. She's taking care of her grandson, and she gets some funding for that.
That work also for siblings?
What's kinship care? It would depend.
Like if one sibling is looking after another sibling?
Right, it would be a grandchild.
I
it could
don't
be
know
if he was a
You'd
guardian.
have to call them.
It could be, possibly.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what their rules are. But I'm sure call our offices and talk to Rochelle. She might be able to answer that since she's investigated and she's actually gotten on, I think, one of their advisory boards. Going back to DDA for more, get on the list. Get on the list. There is a regional office. Baltimore County is in Central Maryland.
I have one question.
Be a pest is the best advice.
All these organizations we're talking about here subject to FOI?
Freedom of Information Act?
Yes.
I would assume so, since they're state agencies. Why would you?
I mean, sometimes they sort of stonewall you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if they were subject to FOI.
I would have to assume so. I don't know the answer to that. And I think if you're not getting anywhere with your case manager, go up the chain. I've had a lot of people that I've heard, especially. I don't even want to get into discussions about lists. I'll tell you a little bit about it, but I'm not here to defend lists in any way, shape, or form. I know there's lots of issues with that. I personally have lots of issues with that, and how many hoops they're making families jump through for a little bit of money. That it frustrates me. It's just they said they were making it easier, and I think they've actually made it harder for families, and it frustrates me. But I know that I have talked to families who gave up on their regional office and called Baltimore directly and got better results. So don't be afraid to move up the chain if you need to.
What do you mean call Baltimore directly?
Call their main office, the main DDA versus your regional office.
Instead of calling
For
Humana,
lists.
to call the Baltimore.
Baltimore DDA.
Yeah. Now depending on who you talk to, they may well send you back out to the county. But my understanding is from families that I have talked to that sometimes if they feel like they've done what they're supposed to do and they're not getting the results or they're not getting the answers fast enough or they're whatever. I'm not saying it's going to work 100% of the time, but that's where people have told me they've found success is that they can't get anywhere in their regional office, they move on. If you have not yet applied for DDA services and you are going to, please, when you fill out the application, send it receipt requested. Make sure you know that they got it, because if it gets lost in the system, you'll never know. They don't call you. They're supposed to call you fairly quickly for an interview to come out to observe your child, to assess your situation, that sort of thing, to see if you would qualify. But you're better off, the squeaky wheel, you're better off, one, having somebody sign that they received your application. Keep a copy for yourself in case they didn't, and you don't have to fill out the form. It's long, it's 10 pages. It's not actually as difficult as it looked. I put it off for a long time because I thought, oh, I don't want 10 pages of this stuff. So I didn't do it, and I wish I had done it sooner. I don't think it would have gotten me any further, but you never know. Maybe somewhere there's going to be a windfall and things are going to get funded.
Get on that list right away.
So,
it's very important.
get on.
You're right. And to call it, I used to call once a year just to make sure, because I knew I was on the waiting list. So I would call once a year to make sure I'm still on the list. And one year they said, we moved, we can't find your file.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, can you look for it? And, so I called about once a month, and they eventually found it. It took them about 6 months. I was still on the list, so it's fine. But
Right. But, you keep a copy. They will send you letters periodically. Keep a copy.
There is
Keep a
one
copy.
state government agency where if the parent calls to check on their application, you won't believe this. It was as though that child had just submitted.
Just
Okay?
that, yeah.
So instead of being here on the waiting list, they were down
Down at the
there.
bottom.
who was that?
I'm not saying.
Oh, that's
You mean
unbelievable.
because you
How
make
did
a
that
phone call, they put you down on the bottom?
I don't know how they rectified it in the end, but that's what was happening. And it took them like 6 months until they realized that this was
I
happening.
mean, that was a computer glitch.
No, computers are probably hand files.
They just entered when a parent
Oh,
calls
so
to
that
check
puts
up
it back on the
and-
bottom of the list.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh, that's really, it's frustrating. So that's one. It may take you a long time, but you need to be on top
Right,
of
and the
that
way
as
that
much
the
as you
parents, if you kept that initial letter that you sent, that was your evidence, and that person you write back up, you had no problem.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
never
they
lose
would-
that, and I think everybody should put it on storage on their computer and make sure they have an online
Backup.
backup system. Like one in Montana and one in Florida.
There you go. Yeah, because it's important. It matters, and you never know. They certainly have, had times where they have found extra funding and have put more people into services. They've also had plenty of stories like that where, God knows. So LIST funding, it's low intensity support services. You can qualify for up to $3,000 a year funding available. It doesn't mean you will get $3,000 a year, but that's the most that they're saying that they can do. But then again, they have a rule that says we can make exceptions. So depending on what it is you want.
for tutoring, which put me so mad.
You have to
They-
figure out what they
this
want to
is-
fund that.
Yeah,
year.
they won't cover
Right.
tutoring.
Those-
That's
Fund
my
a lot of
biggest
things.
expense.
Those rules are
As well.
changing all the time. So again, that's where
So
we
keep
go
that
back
up.
to, let's make a list of what we need, and then we might have to get creative. So if there are other things, I hear you completely, and probably your list of needs is not as great as, you probably don't need equipment.
Right.
But if you can figure out, all right,
Drum lessons he gets.
okay,
They cover drum
But I
lessons?
can't. Yeah, I called it
Because-
therapy.
Oh,
I called it sensory.
right. So be creative in how you call things. Yeah.
But it said tutoring on it.
No, they will not.
They said
they
the school
won't.
have to
Not
go to the
anymore.
school system.
I tried
So they won't do the one-on-one chat.
Right.
Uh-huh.
You have to call it something.
The rules
That was one of my
change
things.
all the time. All the time. Sometimes even in the same calendar year. The
Oh,
rules
so
change.
I've had to
Yeah.
appeal with this, and they don't want to go through the appeal process. So if you're appealing, they're a lot faster to.
And I hate to tell you, I also hear you cry.
What?
If you're appealing, cry. And you will be more
That's not
likely
hard
to get
to
what
do.
you want.
Oh, they were like, oh, we don't want to spend the money on this appeal. We'll just give it to you.
Sometimes you can turn it around the other way and be aggressive. Sometimes,
Right.
sometimes it works. Sometimes they have you escorted out by security. But,
Exactly.
but the next time they see you, they give you what you asked the first time.
Maybe so. So, be creative. You might have to figure out, is there something that they would fund that you hadn't thought about, and kind of trade the money that
Sometimes if you
way.
engage them in a way that you're asking them to help you,
Right.
how can you help? This is what I need. What do I need
Right.
to do?
How can
And
I
if you
get it?
partner
Right.
with them,
Yep.
because it's very difficult when they have limited resources and they have to say no, and it comes across as though they're being mean.
Right.
But if you try to put a human face to them,
Right.
that maybe they're human. Really?
And you talk to them.
Yeah.
It's
true.
It sometimes it just comes off a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing is that we now have to play games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to play games. I like to do what I need to do and
I
move
know,
on. And
but you know what?
everybody-
But you're dealing with people
But
who are under
bureaucracy.
constraints,
They are.
and there really is not a lot of money, and you really
Correct.
want
Right.
what you need.
Right. And, there is no list funding. The money was gone by January.
Oh yeah.
The money was gone.
January?
And it will be available again with the new fiscal year, which is July 1st. So I suggest that everybody get out your applications.
They won't take
But
it.
if it comes a day
No,
early, they send it
they
back.
won't-
You have to
July
send it
1st,
out
You wait
exactly.
until July 1st, 2 minutes
July-
past midnight, and you fax it in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I did it in August.
You really
it was
did.
fine.
But I wouldn't do it much later than August.
I would.
No, I wouldn't.
So think about, if you're thinking about camp for next, the hard part is you may not be able to apply until January. So I don't know how that gets done. But if you know,
We're okay. Our camps
Well, you guys have
will-
your- right.
Yeah,
They'll send us a bill.
they will
They know.
generate a bill. They think we're nuts. Okay, I call my daughter's camp starts in late June. The third day of camp, I'm on the phone saying, "Hi, can you give me a bill for next year?" I'm like, what? Just do me a favor, and they do. They generate it. They think we're
What happens
crazy,
if
but
she's not
this
going
is
back?
it.
What happens if things change?
Then you
She's going
technically return the money
Well,
to
then
Liz.
they have
Right.
to return the money to us,
Yes, we
but
have that.
this is not something that we foresee happening. It's kind of a regular thing, and that's
deal
about it.
deal with the changes as they come and figure out what to do at that point. But so really think ahead. Have that list available. Think about if they're not going to pay for tutoring, can I get something else that they would cover and trade that money and play creative finance with your own budget.
Did you say a bill or
An invoice.
what is it exactly
An
you're
invoice.
asking?
An invoice, probably.
Available, just an invoice,
For next year?
right? Gotta do what you gotta
You got to do what you got to do, and
It's hard
do
to
it.
be creative because
Seriously,
they're
do it as soon as
they
possible.
seem so picky on, we don't fund that.
Well, and that's the problem.
Why
It's
not?
totally capricious. What they say on July 1st may be different what they say on September 1st, and it seems to be no real rhyme or reason. And I'll tell you, I've not had, the trickle down from the administration of DDA to the people who are actually making those decisions and telling you yes or no is horrible. They are not getting well trained at all. There are
Wow.
times
Another
we
thing
were
is-
on a call with the DDA had started, and we were actually giving them information that they should have been giving us about their own organization. So
They're also Penmar and Humana have different rules.
Yes.
Okay, according to the
which they're not supposed
DDA
to.
thing, you're
Really?
really only in-state camps are eligible to the letter of the law. Only in-state Maryland sleepaway camps are eligible for list funding. Now, when that came out, I got a slew of phone calls from our parents saying, "What am I going to do? They're not going to fund my child's sleepaway camp." So Menucha got on the phone, made a bunch of phone calls, and in the end, we were able to negotiate with one of the providers. I don't remember now if it was Penmar or Humanum. I believe it was Humanum. Humanum now accepts that. You can send your child to an out-of-state camp. They're understanding about the fact that this is what we need because our children require kosher food, etc., and so on, and nobody in Maryland does
Very
that.
specific, yeah.
But if you send it to the other, who I believe is Penmar, they're just going to flat use it. So
I got 1 year Humana, 1 year Penmar.
you did
Yes,
Penmar.
I got it from 2 different. Yeah.
That's a good thing. Maybe Penmar came
Or
around.
maybe they didn't notice it was going to your.
There's everything.
So again, apply, do and do it sooner than later because the money, it is first come first serve. You can get up to $3,000. So if we all went and asked for $3,000, it's going to go a lot faster unless people will be. It's I hate this way of doing it. It just makes people to be greedy because they may not get it next time. Always have a plan B because, if the funding's going to run out and you never thought about applying in July for next July's camps and things like that. So there's a lot of different possibilities. We have to all be creative. We all have to talk to each other, figure out. And this is the part where I'm hoping that maybe you guys can help share with each other things that might have been successful for you. There's a lot of different disability-specific organizations. If you have a child who has autism. There's autism societies. Some of them certainly are more active than others. Some of them have their own funding sources and fundraising and all of that kind of thing. I live in Howard County. Theirs is very wealthy. They do a lot of fundraising. I don't know what they do with their funds. I'm not sure they're sending kids to camp. I don't know, but they've got, they may well have some grants that are available for families. So check with that kind of thing. If not, they might know of other resources that are specific to that disorder or disability. Charitable organizations, even some foundations. I know of a family that I work with who lives in Baltimore County. He needed an addition on his house. He had no money. He had actually lost his job. He went to Warren Buffett. He said, let me find who has the money. And this is a man who has more tenacity than most bulldogs, and he just kept at it, kept at it, and kept at it, and sure enough, he got Warren Buffett's foundation to fund at least a portion of his house edition for his son. So, there are, I would never have thought of that, but, if you don't ask, you don't try, the only thing you're going to get is nothing. There's fraternities, there's different service organizations,
The Masons,
the
I think.
Civitans, the
Knights of Columbus.
Masons, Knights of Columbus, even if they're affiliated with specific churches and that sort of thing. I don't think they're, I think that in general they're willing to go beyond just their own local community. And some, like the Knights of Columbus, children with developmental disabilities, that's what they do. And so if you have a child with, now a lot of times they give money to the arts. That's kind of how they seem to funnel their money, but you never know. It may be well worth looking into organizations like that. The Civitans, they are not going to be able to fund a $3,000 something, but they might give you a couple $100 for a specific item that you might want or need. And especially, let them have the PR, let them have the picture of them giving your child the tricycle that you needed, and have that go into the paper. That helps them to get more money to be able to give it to more families, that sort of thing. Sometimes employers have, especially some of the larger employers have foundations. They might be able to come up with some funding. It doesn't hurt to have a spaghetti dinner or something like that. I mean, that's a hard thing, for any of us to do. But if that's one way of having people donate money in a big way, in a way that doesn't feel like you're not knocking on their door, please can I have? It's a bigger event. It doesn't feel like you're begging as much, I think, in some respects. And it's usually, if you do that for something, whether it's to help with medical bills or it's to help with, help get equipment for a child who needs it, that sort of thing, it might feel a little bit better.
I just need to say something. Many of us don't like to share some of the personal things about, our children and things like this, but you find that the more that you do share, someone knows someone who knows somebody. So yes, it's very difficult, but in the big picture, you're really looking out for your kid.
Yeah, and you know what? If you've got stuff, the other thing is,
someone else has it, or
somebody else might have that piece of equipment that you're looking for. You don't probably need or care that it's brand spanking new. You just need that. Right. And so, I've got a basement full of stuff that I don't use anymore that I haven't figured out who to give to. But it's hard. There aren't a lot of equipment exchanges. I've had Ashley's old wheelchairs. Her first wheelchair went to Korea because I had a friend who had an adoption agency and she was going to Korea and she helped to families to receive children with disabilities. And so she was going to Korea to get a child, and they had somebody there who needed a wheelchair, and I said, please take Ashley. And it's so exciting because it had Ashley's name on the back, so it was, it was a big deal, and they were all just in awe of this chair that, has been sitting, it was a cute little, her baby wheelchair. But it has a life of its own with kids that I would never have been able to reach if I hadn't been talking to my neighbor about what am I going to do with this. So you never know both ways, in asking and in receiving. I think that's a big piece of all of this is, who do we know? What can we share? Does anybody, I'm just I think we're kind of just in a list mode at this point. Does anybody have places that they've?
Going back to the DDA and the funding and everything. So I actually just applied and they came to my house and looked at everything. So they said that they, because my daughter is like almost 4, and they said that she's too young to get any funding from the DDA. So that's like a.
It's one of these very let's
be honest, for 5 years, so you don't
it's one of those wonderful things that technically they serve all people of any age. They swear in every public forum they have, we do serve children if we have funding to serve the children. But we're also looking at, there are people on the waiting list for services and funding. And part of it is your child is so young that she probably, she's now out of infants and toddlers if she was ever in it. She could be, she could be served by the school system and get a lot of her services through that. That's their mentality. So the fact that you're going to send her to a private school is your choice, and they are available to you. And I'm not, I'm just telling you what I hear. I'm not justifying it by any stretch.
Well, the crazy thing is also it's the same idea as like, for them to pay for a one-on-one for my child in a private school is so much less expensive than if I'm going to say, well, if you're not going to give me that, then I'm going to need to send them to the public school. And then go and fund that instead. You want to fund that?
I know. It's
that
very
takes
frustrating.
a lawyer's touch.
It does.
To call the right person on the right day.
But they don't care about that. They totally don't listen. That's how
I'm sorry. That's how the program goes.
It's how the system
like
works.
I said, that's what it takes a lawyer who knows the person who makes the decision and knows when to call them.
Yeah.
But it's very unusual for that to happen.
Once upon a time,
they're not into
one-on-ones.
They're not into that.
If anyone has a one-on-one now, I'm just letting you know you are extremely lucky because
I'm working.
But the other answer is the school systems are really trying to move away from that too.
Yes.
So even if you do put your child into the public school, you may well not get a one-to-one.
But again,
because the schools are moving away from that.
But the child might not need a one-on-one.
Correct. I'm 100% with you, and if I had the funding, I would give it to you because I get it. Are there other places that any of you have tried that you've been successful that maybe we haven't talked about? Or?
There's also the Resource Finder.
Resource Finder, yes.
$350 a year. And also
what is that?
It's called the Resource Finder.
That's on Menucha's website. If you go to our website,
and the lady Jenny Jones, she is so sweet to talk to and reasonable. Not that she makes the decisions, but
they have some discretionary funding available.
Also, I know of another one. What's it called? It's also a Kennedy Krieger. It's Judy Atkinson at Family Support Services.
These are both Kennedy Krieger?
That's for Baltimore City residents.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Both of those resources.
What's the other one?
These are both Baltimore City? Are they both?
No, she just said the Resource Finders or Menucha.
So the second one is called Family Support Services, I believe.
Are they both for the city only?
No.
Resource Finders is not.
Okay.
And the second one, Judy Atkins.
Judy Atkinson.
Okay, those are both Kennedy Krieger funds?
They are, but they're separate or something. Because Family Support Services is at their packed locations.
Right. So it also may be age.
I don't know exactly.
But I was going to say, I've gotten...
And it's also up to $250.
I was going to say, I've gotten funding from Kennedy Krieger, but I don't know like a specific
I
name.
know either respite care. She's also easy to speak
Who did you
to.
speak to?
Judy Atkinson.
And there's Chelsea Ty I've spoken to.
Yeah, she's also very good.
Yeah.
She's connected more with codes and calls. She's like early. Once your child's age is out, you're not going to talk to Chelsea.
Yes.
But yeah, she's
So
I mean,
what
I just
have
got her name through a friend, not through Totem Co or anything.
great. I know, but she doesn't work that.
what we're passing around now is a list that Parents' Place has generated. It clearly is not exhaustive. I know I looked at Esther's list, and there probably are things that there are a lot of things that are similar. There are probably things that are not.
Have you ever tried your congressman or your senators for funding?
I have not, but they do have some discretionary funding that they may, they may be able to. They might have their own sources pots that they can, depending on what you need. Again, you need to be as specific as possible. They're not going to be probably able to fund services, but a thing that can't be funded any other way. The other thing with like lists and all of that, they're supposed to be funders of last resort. So you're supposed to have gone through everybody on that list and everybody on that list and everybody on resource fund. It's insane.
You only need 2 or 3
Three.
to say no. So what I do is I apply to people I know have no funding.
Or it's not age appropriate. There's places that it's the wrong age. You can apply to them. They'll send you a no. You can put them on the thing.
Yeah. So
Also,
again,
the
it's the game
Department of
we
Health.
play.
The Department of Health has funds.
Sometimes
Not a lot, but
they have some funding. Sometimes,
About 150,
again, some of that is that
200.
Office of Genetics.
Department of Health.
Some health departments take some money for respite. Again, it's
yeah, it was a
specific.
respite number. It was a
They're all
respite.
done differently. Every county, every jurisdiction is different.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
On the ARC of Baltimore, the respite care is, I believe, needs-based.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. And what about UCP? Is that also needs-based?
What did you say?
Which one?
Is UCP, United Cerebral Palsy, is that also needs-based?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Well, and the ARC,
I know
that's
the
under
arts is
DDA,
also
right?
income-based.
That's what it
That's
says. Yeah.
For sure, okay, that makes sense.
And Maryland's Developmental Disabilities Council, small grants, those are small grants for parents that parents can
They
apply
are,
for?
and I'll be honest, that's one that's listed. I think that tends to be things like they will pay for a parent to go to a workshop or something like that. I don't know that they would pay for respite out of that kind of funding. I don't know. Do you know? Have you ever talked to anybody who's gotten funding for DD Count? There's small grants. I don't think it's a resource. I don't know what they actually fund. I'll be perfectly honest.
I don't think it's individuals. They certainly give them
sometimes they
to groups,
They can, right.
education, and things like that. I remember I got a grant at the JC,
Yeah.
at the CJD one, but for a class I was organizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you there might be a project. The ways I've
Just give us
heard that
more
funding
specific.
is just more group based, where we have a project we want to do, they would fund it.
What's under DDA exactly? I know Liz is, the ARC is also under DDA, or it's not?
The ARC may receive DDA funding to distribute.
See, I get so confused with the whole DDA thing, because it's like, wait, you are, you're not, what is that?
And then, and when it used to be, when LIST used to be rolling access, then there were a lot of people that had DDA funding that they could share. So then you were calling, instead of calling Humanum or Penmar, you were calling
7 different places.
10 different places.
So what does that
And
mean?
They all have different amounts and different rules.
The ARC has DDA funding. What does that mean specifically if you get list funding for DDA? It's separate.
They're not
from-
giving out, unless they're a contractor for LIST, they are not giving out. Like the ARC of Prince George's County in that region is their LIST provider. ARC has separate monies that they are using for respite. I don't know that it's coming, I don't know what their funding source is for that.
If one of the things that I have noticed is that sometimes we have the tendency to hear what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
And I can't stress this enough. Don't be afraid of irritating the person you're talking to. Does that what you just say mean this or this?
Right.
Which one is it? Is it yes or no? Because they will give you ambiguous answers just to get you off the phone. But what ends up happening is you start a process that just wears you out. If you find out, no, we don't do that, and here I can cite the regulation and the specific, don't waste your time on them anymore.
Right.
You got to find somebody else to go to. And I think we're so needy, we frequently try to curry favor with the people we're talking to. And I heard you say earlier, and some of the people saying, well, maybe crying works. Sometimes it doesn't work because they were never able to help you and never could. But you never asked the right question to get them to say yes or no.
But you know something? Never, always end it, ask, do you have any ideas? Do you have any suggestions? Really, you want to engage them. You really want them to be on your side. So you have to play it
I
as though they're on
disagree with you. Because these people are bureaucrats. They may have to deal with you, but they don't have to answer to you.
No, they don't. No, you're not asking them to answer to you, but you are on a mission. You need to find something for your child. They do not have it, but that does not mean they don't know one other place where you can possibly make a phone call.
Yeah, and everybody.
Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody.
Exactly. I agree with
and like you said before, no is not an acceptable answer.
Right. We just got to keep
not.
looking, and you never know. Somebody's going to know. I am a part of a group, a CP group at Kennedy Krieger. Everybody's separate. There's a lot of different places, so just keep asking at Kennedy Krieger. But we just started a fund for kids who have cerebral palsy that they can, and you don't have to be a patient there. They have a grant of up to $500. If you have a child, you got it?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
applying for it. I've been in touch
Good.
with Tony Schmate.
Tony Schumate, yeah.
Yeah,
It's.
When
Do you
you
know
see
if they own-
Dr. Hoon, tell him hi from me.
I'm going to see him next week. I love him.
Lucky.
Do you know if they only fund for CP or if they fund
It
for
is
other
only for
spinal cord?
It's only for CP.
Okay. 'Cause some of
But
them.
there's a
I
lot of
have a
social
friend
workers
that's
there
CP.
that you should ask. Ask Jenny. Ask social workers. They might have different sources. But that group, that's
Are you in
what
touch
are we
with
called
CP?
now? We just changed our
My
name. I
son's
think
fine
it's
with
Cerebral
that.
Palsy Kinetic
Are you in touch with
Connections.
Yeah, that's what I saw on the email.
Yeah, I know. The other thing is, has anybody ever done Make-A-Wish?
She knows of any
You do not have to
resources.
have a child who's
Red.
dying to be part of Make-A-Wish. You have to have a child who has a life-threatening condition, and there's a lot that are. And they're typical. It's a very, very easy process. I applied online on a Friday night, and by Monday morning they were calling my doctor to see if they had to verify the condition. And we were in the process of receiving it. We chose to go to Disney. Their typical amount of money that they give to a family is about $7,000 for a wish. And it was a great thing. Not everybody wants to go to Disney. That's okay. But if there are things that you want to make sure your child's room of totally sensory, whatever. You can do that. You want them to have the 8 million gallon fish tank or whatever. There's a million. The sky's the limit. They really encourage you to.
That's a once in a lifetime.
It's a once in a lifetime thing. It's for children under 18.
What is this?
But they're Make-A-Wish. You have to have a life-threatening condition, but you don't have to be dying. My daughter, she definitely has a life-threatening condition. Especially after last year, we know that. But she has cerebral palsy. And all that comes with that, seizure disorder, that kind of thing. They didn't do a lot of, you're most justified, but they did talk to her doctors, and we got some verification. And clearly she qualifies.
The worst thing they could do is say no.
The worst they can say is no, and they probably will say yes. And it was so easy, and the really great thing for us in going to Disney, we felt like we chose to, it was a family gift. Yes, it was for Ashley, but my other kids have had to deal with a lot in having Ashley as their sister. Not that they've had a bad life, they've just had a different life. And it was a family trip of a lifetime, and we were treated like kings. And it was so nice to have people say, my kids were like, really? Because of Ashley, we get to do that? It was a whole really awesome thing for the entire family, and that it doesn't matter, whether they choose a shopping spree, whether they choose something, a room makeover, or whatever. The fact that they will have that memory forever, and that they will have that thing forever. And I was amazed at how generous they were to us. So I really encourage. And I was always one of those, no, really, my kid's not. That's not for us. That's for kids who have cancer and things like that. And there's a place for our kids too there, and they want to help our kids too. So don't be afraid to go that route if you think you might qualify. It's a wonderful, wonderful organization. So I don't know if you have any other organizations or thoughts that you might have considered outside of what we've already talked about. I think there's things, I know most of these are on your list. I think what you have to look at, the Jill Fox Fund is for medical expenses. It's actually, I see and hear it. I don't know. I've not really investigated it.
Any doctor, you don't need a social worker, and you can't do it. But if you need eyeglasses, your optician needs to make the application. If you need, I don't know. I'm just using that because it's faster for me to think about that. I don't believe they do dental anymore, though.
Really?
I believe they do not.
That's
I don't know. You don't have to.
United Healthcare. You do not have to have United Healthcare insurance to qualify for their fund, but you do have to have medical insurance, private insurance.
They have separate funding.
And they have some funding there. The Morgan Project,
I've never heard of that.
You just have to go look at at what their qualifications are. Everybody's got narrowing qualifications because we're all on tight budgets at this point. So some are very specific. Make-A-Wish, the ERIC Fund is about technology. Also, I have a flyer, just a couple for those who might have assistive technology that are kind of getting into 18 and adulthood. Maryland Disability Law Center has a project where they're helping families to get their keep their assistive technology that they're using that they might have obtained through school to be able to find ways to make that kind of a more seamless transition. I don't know whether you actually keep that piece of equipment or whether you get the identical one. That's kind of a combination of doors, Department of Rehab Services, and whatever. So they've got, you should call them. They've got specific, I've got just a couple, and I'll be honest and tell you that it printed real funny, so I didn't, it was like a brochure, but it didn't print right side up. So, so you have to turn it over when you read it. There are loan programs. Maryland Department of Disabilities has Maryland Technology Assistance Program. TAP, Maryland TAP, MDTAP. They have a lot of people who can provide a lot of various assistive technology, not just computers and iPads and all of that, but also adaptive silverware and just anything that anybody who is has a disability, whether it's aging, whether it's a physical, a developmental disability. They have a lot of things. They have things to try, to loan. They have, we actually were able to borrow through the school system through them an iPod device, not the iPod itself, but a device that helps her, she hits the button and it advances to the next song. So she can control the music that she's listening to, which is kind of cool. We were able to find out that it worked for her, that she enjoyed it, and then we got it as a gift for Christmas. So, there's ways about, because, it gets expensive when we keep trying things, buying things, and then they don't work, and then you can't return them. So there are things. They also have information about low interest loans for things like that. There's actually even housing loans for people with disabilities if you have not owned a house previous. That there are things around that you just have to keep asking the questions. That's what I have. I think that's about it. Hospitals, and we've already talked about the rest of the organizations. Pharmacy assistants too. I forgot about that. There are different companies, and even as you're watching online, on commercials on TV, there's trials, there's different things where you can get discounts on your own medications. There's a lot of different MedBank, different plans. Call your local insurance or the company that makes the medications. They may be able to get it to you for a discount. Again, it's just about asking and asking and asking. I know that's hard for a lot of us to do. Talk and talk and talk and talk and talk to everybody you know. Somebody, as you said, everybody knows somebody who knows something or who knows somebody else that might have a way in or might know somebody who has money they're looking to give away. You never know. So keep asking people and keep sharing what you know. Support groups, The other thing is, there might be organizations that don't have money, but they might know other people who have money, So don't be afraid to call, Maryland Coalition for Children's Mental Health if that's what you're dealing, that's the disability you're dealing with, they might have their own list of sources and resources for families to know about.
Keep a record of everyone you call, phone numbers, and try to
names.
get a name of someone.
And names,
And
yeah.
it helps.
And also think about healthcare spending accounts. If you can't get, if you can't qualify for Medicaid and with your insurance, and you still have all the co-pays, at least that's money that you put into an account before taxes. So you get a little bit there, and you have to look it up. I know we've done it ourselves. You can set that up privately. You don't have to do it through your own work. You can set up a private. We went through our own bank, SunTrust. Was our bank, and they helped us set that up, and we were able to, pay for the medical expenses out of that. It still is limited to, I think you can put in, I don't know how many, $3,000 a year or whatever. There's also exemptions and things, expense deductions and that sort of thing with taxes. So if you have enough expenses that way, it may well be worth talking to an accountant and seeing. But somebody who knows disability is going to be the key. Good luck finding it, I know. But there are people out there. Sure, there are people out there. And we have a ton of information back here. We probably have more. Feel free to give us a call if you're looking for something. We're happy to do some research for ourselves. Like I said, we are families of kids with disabilities ourselves, so we know how desperate we can all be. And if we're going to do research for you, we might just find things for ourselves too. So it's not, it's going to benefit more than just you. So we're happy to help as much as we can.
It's a full-time job.